President Rodrigo Duterte has set his legislative agenda for his final year in office to ease restrictions on international retailers and professionals, as well as to allow foreigners greater ownership in some public utilities. He also pushed for further tax reforms and the completion of infrastructure projects in the countryside as a way to shepherd the local economy out of the COVID-19 crisis. But an analyst from Moody's Investor Service believes next year's election may disrupt the Duterte administration planned economic reforms as lawmakers go into campaign mode. For his thoughts on this, we are joined by John Forbes, Senior Advisor at the American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. I'd like to start out by asking you your thoughts about the president's push for more investments. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think he's on the right track, looking for more foreign investments, or, using it as a means to lift the country out of this pandemic?
Well, it's not just the pandemic. Every president should be seeking foreign investment, particularly now that the population of the Philippines is 110 million people, and you've got 70 million people in the workforce, and you graduate 600,000 into the workforce every year, and you have a very high number of unemployed. It's not really so much this president, because he's very much in the last year of his 6-year term. It's more the next president, and then part of this president's legacy, because the next president is going to face a situation much like Cory Aquino faced in 1986, when you had a 15% drop in GDP. So jobs and foreign investment will, of course, if you can increase it, will bring more capital in, although foreign investment is not the easiest thing to get during a world recession or even on the verge of a depression. The president specifically in the SONA endorsed 3 legislative measures, one being the foreign amendments to the 1991 Foreign Investment Act, which is a fairly minor bill, the other being the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, which are amendments to a law in 2000, which were amendments to a law in 1954, which actually will bring in more foreign investment. But the really important reform that the president has certified as urgent are amendments to a 1936 act, and it's called Amendments to the Public Services Act, and it defines what is a public utility. The Constitution does not. A number of laws, such as APIRA, allowed foreign investors to generate electricity. So you've seen quite many tens of billions of dollars that have come in to generate electricity in the country. But the distribution of electricity, bringing it into your home, transmission, probably under the bill, but telecommunications would be opened up. The president, his timing is good because there's still time. So we're looking forward to that very, very much. And after that happens and they get signed and it gets sorted out, then we'll move to encourage more companies to come in and invest.
You seem to be confident that the 3 bills will be passed, even though, elections are fast coming. I mean, we have less than a year before the elections, and some of the politicians might be running for office and might be busy campaigning. So how confident are you?
There's lots of money to invest. It doesn't have to come to the Philippines. It's not up to the investors to fix the situation of the Philippines to make the laws. It's up to the Filipino leadership. The president of the country has said he's asked them to do it, and the president usually and his senior economic secretaries follow through. The retail trade bill already is in BICAM. So the issues in BICAM are quite easy to resolve. So 100% confident at the retail trade. So the only question is, when I refer to open up all transportation and telcos, is whether or not protectionism, whether or not the thinking of 1936 will prevail, or the thinking of 2036, whether the Philippines wants to maximize large amounts of foreign capital coming in, or they want to stay with monopolies and duopolies. And a lot of people around the world, a lot of embassies are watching to see what the result will be.
So assuming that all bills get passed, are you confident that funds will come in right away, given that we're in the middle of a pandemic and there will be a leadership change next year? Or is that something that a longer term issue, or over the long term we'll see more investments?
Well, first of all, funds are scarcer, as you would expect. I have a slide, I'm not sure I can put it up, showing UNCTAD in Geneva, which reports and follows global FDI movements. And several years ago, pre-pandemic, that was at a level of 2 trillion US dollars, US being the largest recipient of FDI, China second. And that fell down considerably. And obviously with the pandemic, investors can't come into the Philippines because they're not allowed at the airport to enter. They can't check out potential investments here. Even for call centers, it's difficult for at least for new clients coming in. It's almost impossible to get into the country. So the overall level is down. But pre-pandemic, there was actually more FDI coming to ASEAN than there was into China. Of the 140 billion that was coming in pre-pandemic into Southeast Asia, Singapore got about half of it. Indonesia was high, Vietnam was high. Thailand and Malaysia, because of domestic political concerns, were low. And the Philippines reached in 2017 a level close to $10 billion, which was 5 times what it was at the beginning of the Aquino administration. So the Philippines was beginning because it had a long period of high economic growth, and because of its fundamentals of a large population, its location within the fastest growing region in the world, which is Asia and Southeast Asia, it was attracting more and more foreign capital. But we're going to a post-pandemic period and back towards that $2 trillion a year level, which I don't think is going to happen until well into the next administration, 2023, 2024.
So aside from the passage of the 3 bills, what else can the government do to attract more foreign investments?
There's also a bill called Open Access in Data Transmission, which was passed on third reading in the House very recently. That will increase investment in every stage of data, from the international cable coming in to the backbone, from local distribution, and all sorts of opportunities for more investment by both foreigners and Filipinos in data transmission, and hopefully improve the speed and quality and lower the cost of broadband in the country. Also creative industries. I think we're all excited by what Congressman De Venecia and 50 other members of the House have been doing to advance a very sophisticated bill. Creative industries, there's lots of opportunities for foreign investment and foreign trade. For e-vehicles, there's opportunities for investment in the vehicles themselves and the charging stations and the logistic chain for parts as well. And finally, I would mention the RBH2, which a lot of senators are uncomfortable with, but the House had no problem passing on third reading, which allows the Congress to legislate restrictions that are in the Constitution. For example, the Philippines is not a big advertising hub like Bangkok or Tokyo, because the foreign firms under the 1987 Constitution are limited to 30% ownership. So the advertising industry is focused on local advertising. It's not focused on the opportunities globally for Filipinos to be creative, to work for big global firms that have all the technology, all the global markets, and the skills and marketing capabilities. And that's something that right now can only be opened up if there's an amendment to the Constitution. If it's passed by the Senate and it requires a vote of 18, it has to, which is a very difficult target, it then could be added on to the Elections in early May as a plebiscite for approval by the electorate, and then you could come back into Congress and open up advertising to global companies to locate here and make Manila or Cebu major hubs for global advertising. So those are 7 bills. I think there's still time.
We're in the middle of the pandemic, and a lot of economists, including myself, are focused on the vaccination program. So I'm just wondering your thoughts about the current pace of vaccinations going on in the Philippines. Are you happy or encouraged about it, or do you think more can be done?
More always can be done. I mean, the fact that there's no vaccination production facility in Southeast Asia is disturbing. The fact that there were early delays in handling the pandemic is not unexpected, because no one alive has had the experience with the Spanish flu. But the rate of vaccination now, all things considered, is not bad. It's higher than Thailand, for example, which not quite as high as Indonesia, higher than Vietnam, which there are a number of countries that didn't get the virus, didn't have the surges, that failed to vaccinate. Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam. I prefer to believe in the target of Secretary Galvez and Joey Concepcion and others, that there will be sufficient vaccination for herd immunity as we get close to the Christmas holidays.
Well, thank you very much, and good luck to your members. I do look forward to more investments from your members in the U.S. and stay safe. Take care. Other business groups also cheer President.